We're going to get started here in just a few moments. Thank you for coming out. We're glad you're here.
Am I first?
Yes.
Oh, I am? Okay.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
We're very lucky to have two really good speakers tonight. We have Steve Zing. I don't want to massacre your last name. Zingit. And he is a very good WordCamp speaker. He also hosts his own WordPress meetup, OCWP, that's twice a month. Those are very good. And whenever you're ready.
Give me 2 minutes here.
Okay, two more minutes. What happened new this week? Jetpack released a new version. Jetpack is a software that comes with that is made by the same people that WordPress, and it is actually a suite of features that are meant to mimic the WordPress.com. So if you've been on self-hosted WordPress, and then there's WordPress.com. There's a lot of features. They just added a carousel feature to it that will allow you to do slideshows. And the other new thing that happened was I was going to show you WordFence, but I'll save that for next time. And how many people here have used Jetpack before? What's your opinion on it? Like it, not like it? The only thing that I don't like about it is that it will enable features sometimes that you don't want enabled that will conflict with other plugins. The carousel plugin does conflict with some gallery plugins. So what it does is it allows you to insert a WordPress gallery into your page, and then instead of it having go just directly to the page or directly to the attachment page, it brings it up in a slideshow. That's a nice little carousel that you can go back and forth with. So definitely check that out when you get a chance. You good? All right. Okay. I'll give you a look.
You have Wi-Fi?
Woo! Yes. Yes. There's no password.
Oh.
Which one is it? What's the Wi-Fi?
The one West Park 4. Okay.
I should have West Park.
Yes.
All right.
So this is Steve. Please help me welcome Steve.
My hair I'm going. Hello. Who brought their kids?
I did.
Oh yeah, you just have to click on that and then it will take you through to the internet.
Hello. It's gone. All right.
Shortcut to use Princess.
Like Suzette said, if you don't know, for those of you who don't know me, my company is called Zeek Interactive.
That's okay.
Can I,
Oh, certainly. Yes.
It's a little loud. My company is called Zeek Interactive. We're right here in Huntington Beach. Suzette comes to my group. I've been leading the OC WordPress meetup for a little over 2 years now, right out of my office. So if you're interested in that, go on to meetup.com, look for OC WordPress. So that's how we get to know each other. What I came to talk about tonight was UI. I'm going to have a little helper tonight. No? Okay. You want to play this? I mean, play this or record my. Come on. Sorry, it was noisy. Just show of hands, right? Who's currently designing WordPress sites? And I really do mean design them. When I'm talking about design, because tonight I was really coming here to talk about design, user experience, user interface. That's the specific stuff I want to talk about tonight. So design. Who's coding in WordPress? Who's just using WordPress? Just out-of-the-box themes, things like that. Okay, all that stuff, all of what I'm going to talk about applies, because the more you know, the better you're going to be. But I have given this talk at WordCamps in the past, and I will be asking for lots of participation as we get into this. So let me just jump right in. I've been a developer for 17 years. So I've developed for CD-ROMs, for Flash, for games, for websites, for kiosks. I've done a little bit of everything. So user experience just sort of comes with the turf. And everything I'm about to show you and talk about, I've really just sort of devised myself over the years. This is my take on UX. I've read plenty of books. I'm going to mention them during this presentation. But these are really my opinions, and you're welcome to differ with me if you'd like. So I'm always open to healthy conversation and debate. So let's talk about UX. And I found a couple definitions that I like to use. These came right off of Wikipedia. So there's always sort of a misconception, or there's a lot of misconceptions between the difference between UI and UX, user interface and user experience. I like this definition I found. User interface is defined as the aggregate of means by which users interact with the system. All means of input and output. Whereas user experience, or UX, is the architecture and interaction models that impact a user's perception of a device or system. And essentially, this is really the quote I like. It's really, UI has to do with sort of the what, and UX has to do with sort of deals with the why. So when we're talking about user experience, it's really the whole experience of visiting a website, or really a brand or a product. So we really talk about the experience the whole way through. Tonight, specifically, we're going to talk about websites, where user interface is really, you're talking about how you interact with a system, whether it's a website, a CD-ROM, things like that. Making sense so far? Everybody familiar with all of this? Okay, good. We'll skip that. This is a book that I insist on. If you haven't read this book, get it, read it. It's cool. This book has been around for years. I read it when it first came out. I still read it. I have 10 copies of it on my shelf, and I give one to every client, every potential client when they come in the door. It's a very quick read. It's a book you'll read on an airplane. But this is really where a lot of web UX ideas came from. It came specifically from this book, Don't Make Me Think, by Steve Krug. There's a follow-up book that he has this. I think I have it at the end of the presentation. Show of hands, who's read this book? Who owns this book? Okay. Those of you who don't have your hands up, get this book and read it. I'm telling you, you'll read this in an hour. It's a very quick read. It's very well written. What's that?
Don't make me read
it. then you cannot apply anything I'm about to talk about. So this is a good book. Another resource that I've studied a lot is Jacob Nielsen. So Jacob Nielsen and Steve Krug are two of the well-known names in the UX field. His website is useit.com. And you can, if you don't read the book, you can pick up a lot of tips here. I highly recommend both of these as good UX resources. So what is UX? I was in a hotel recently, and I went to look for some shampoo, and this is what was sitting on the counter. Okay, so there's hair cleanser and hair mask. Which one's the shampoo? Cleanser. Okay. Right, I heard a little bit of both.
Women know.
I understand that, but the problem is, even if women know, you have to take a beat and soak it in and think for a second. Which one's the shampoo? Which one's the conditioner? That actually leads to poor UX. The shampoo is actually the cleanser. But that's actually poor UX. And I know they're trying to be stylish and cute and fancy, but that simple things like that lead to poor user experience. And again, if you read Don't Make Me Think, that's really what this is all about. And these exist everywhere. Here's one that drives me nuts. Okay, that's the card machine at Staples. What's the problem with this user experience here? Actually, this is more of a UI flaw.
We read right to left to right, and the clear button is right below where he's.
It's really exactly. It's a top to bottom issue. Okay, so this says sign below and then press done. Well, I wanted to see those things in order. So the signature block is out of order. The signature block should be up here, where the done and clear button should be below, because that's how I read. So I actually, every time I go to use this thing, I get confused. And I'm a software programmer. Okay, so that's, again, a simple UI flaw is leading to a bad user experience. And you multiply that over time with all the customers that go through the line at Staples, it's probably leading to extra time, people at the register trying to figure that out. I know it seems small, But those kinds of things are, where you have to stop and think for a minute. That leads to a bad user experience. Okay. This really I just kind of hate. But this is how every cashier at the coffee place is handing me my change now. Okay, and they do it so that they make sure that they give you a receipt. It's how they're trained now. They make sure to put the receipt, put the change on. That way they know to give you the receipt. But when they hand this to me, now I've got to undo what they did. I've got to go in and separate the receipt from the change, or they'll stack my change on top of the bills. It's really more of a pain in the ass. But these little things lead to bad user experience. Okay, so UX goes beyond software, and as you start to think about these things, I promise you, when you read "Don't Make Me Think," you'll start to notice these little things all around you every day. And again, thinking through these things, they're really time savers. Yeah.
They don't do that in Canada.
Okay, good. I'll move to Canada. So, as you're developing your site, software, your system, your brand, what questions should you be asking? Okay? I've got some up here. Feel free to shout out others if you think of them. But one of the first questions I ask when I'm approaching a new client or approaching a new site or a mobile app is, who's the audience? Who's going to be using it? How are they going to be using it? Okay? That's a key question. And usually a question that most people forget to ask. Is the audience tech savvy or are they not? Are they old? Are they young? Are they female? Are they male? All those things matter when it comes to your UX design. Make sense? Now I'm specifically talking about site development, but what are the goals? And the goals for every site can be different. When I'm approaching a new client, I will have these conversations. What are your goals? Is your goal traffic? Is it the number of unique visitors? Is it length of stay? Do you want people to stay on the page longer? Those kinds of questions determine what your user interface and your user experience and your design will eventually become. Those things are important. As I'm reviewing design, this is a question I ask myself a lot. And again, these are, remember I talked about at the beginning, techniques that I've developed. So the way I program a site is, I'm not a designer. I know a little bit about design. I know how to review design. I know how to talk design. I cannot design. It's not what I do. I code. That's what I do for a living. But when I'm working with my designer, Kieran, who I've been working with for about 12 years, as she's presenting design and as we're reviewing it, this is a big question that I ask her, at least I have in the back of my mind, with every design that I'm reviewing from her, and every interface that I'm reviewing from her. Is it intuitive? And that's not always an easy question to answer, but the way I determine it is, can I look at this design, can I look at this interface, and without thinking much, just sort of figure out what to do. Do I have to read the manual? Okay? My kids play a lot of video games. We play a lot of video games. The better video games are the ones where you can just sit down and start playing. It's intuitive. Okay? When I'm reviewing a website, a lot of times when I have meetings with clients, a lot of my clients will come with a website already built and they want me to reprogram it, redesign it, or redevelop it. Those are a lot of my engagements. So this is a question we ask when we're reviewing a current site or reviewing any site is, how fast does it load? Now, I realize this isn't an exact design question, but this does lead to user experience. So as you're reviewing a website for UX, how fast does a site load? Does it take a second, a fraction of a second? Does it take 20 seconds? You know, those sites that take 20 seconds, people are probably motivated to just move on to the next thing if your site's loading too slow. A lot of sites I deal with, I gave a very quick introduction, but I deal with sites that do in the 500,000 page views a day. Those are the kinds of scale of the sites that I work on. Okay, so load is a really big issue for us because not only does it affect the audience, the end user, but it affects our servers as well. So scalability is important. Okay, how fast does it load leads to good or bad UX. Again, now as I'm reviewing sites, can I navigate easily? Can I find my way around? Can I read the text? Easy one to miss. Remember I talked about audience demographic? Is your demographic older or younger? Okay. A lot of demographics are growing older. You know, the demographics on networks like Facebook are actually skewing a lot older these days, which means text needs to be larger. Okay. Easy one to miss. Does the product work on mobile? Okay. We're seeing these numbers continue to grow. I think the sites that we're working on now, something like, it's between 15 and 20% of our audience now is coming on a mobile device, some sort of mobile device, primarily iPad, but that still should be considered a mobile device. So does your system, does your site, does your software work easily on a mobile device? If it doesn't, if I have to jump through hoops, that's bad UX. Okay? Bless you. When I'm reviewing design, for those couple of designers in the room, what I do a lot is, and these are conversations I have with Kieran, is as I'm looking at a page, or as I'm looking at a site that we've built, or as I'm looking at design comp, I constantly ask myself in the back of my head, where does my eye land on the page? What's the center of focus? And we're going to review some sites in a little bit, and we'll talk about specifically this. I ask this question to myself a lot. Yep, is there? Nope. So, as you're building, as you're designing, any other questions you can ask as you're reviewing UX or talking to a client? Yeah.
What's the fastest load time for you?
What's the fastest load time?
What's
for
acceptable
me?
to you?
Acceptable to me is as fast as possible. So, freebeacon.com, we just took from something like 6 seconds down to 1.5 for most of our page loads. Doing that through adding some servers and changing our hardware around. So I think if you're not loading as fast as you can, you've got problems. Really, I think that's going to be very site specific. So if it doesn't feel right to you, it probably doesn't feel right to your audience. Come on in. Yeah.
Okay, the front where's the bathroom?
It's actually through that door and upstairs. Sorry.
I'll be right back.
Okay. No worries. So load time is really it's kind of subjective. What will your audience tolerate? My audience, most of my sites that I'm talking about are news sites. They're not going to tolerate long load times. 6 seconds is unacceptable. They've got to be there, and the content's got to load quick. We can, if we get time at the end, we can talk about sort of some technologies to help offset load.
Yeah, just one kind of backing up where you had questions you ask your client. Sometimes when you ask those questions, they just want a really good site. You get that kind of response.
Say it again.
You say, what are you looking for? Are you looking for unique? You're looking for, whatever. They don't really know. They just know they want a good site. So how do you guide that conversation?
I educate. So if I'm asking these questions or having these discussions and I'm looking at a blank stare across the table, which happens a lot, I might not ask these as questions. I'll explain. These are things that you should know, and these are things you should be concerned about. And here's why. Here's why these things are important. So I don't. If I'm with a client that's not savvy, I will typically phrase these as statements rather than questions. So I go into education mode. Was there another question back here? Okay. So as the programmer, as the designer, as the site developer, as the WordPress developer, what are some common mistakes that you should avoid? Okay. Inconsistent layout. So as I go from page to page, is the layout consistent? Does it change? A word that I use a lot when I'm reviewing a site for UI flaws is jarring. So is it a jarring experience as I go from the home page to an inside page, or from inside page to another inside page? Yep.
I'll wait till the break.
Okay. So again, when I review sites, when I'm reviewing for specifically for UX, I keep that term in the back of my head. Is it a jarring experience? Is it a startling experience as I go from page to page? And really, usually that has to do with layout. Can I easily find what I was looking for? Is it consistent? Better yet, are all the fonts consistent? Okay, so is the home page in Helvetica and the inside page in Times? Or something even worse? Am I using Comic Sans anywhere? Fonts should stay consistent throughout the entire design. And while that might seem small, inconsistent fonts is a pretty common problem that I see when I'm talking about sites that have bad UI UX. Okay. This is a biggie. Does the navigation stay consistent throughout the site? Okay. As I go from the home page to the inside page, the navigation in the same place, or do I now have to look elsewhere on the inside pages for navigation? So if you're making your users hunt for navigation, they're going to move on to the next site. Color contrast. I'm talking to the designers in the room. The color contrast is a biggie. Okay. I'm talking a lot, and I've talked a lot in the past at WordCamps about the color wheel. If you're not familiar with what the color wheel is, I'll show you an app on here that I use pretty consistently in my design. In my development. But color contrast is important, and if you don't have the right color contrast, then again that can lead to bad user experience. The opposite of that is having too many colors. Okay. And I can't remember if I have it in here or not, but too many fonts goes along with that. So too many fill in the blank is always going to be a bad user experience. So too many colors is typically a bad choice. Too many fonts, bad choice. When we talk about inconsistent layouts, too much layout or navigation is a bad choice. What's that?
I think it's simple to navigate.
Exactly. One of the other things I talk a lot about with my clients, and especially when I'm educating my clients, is what a call to action is. Okay, one of the biggest flaws I see, and as we review some sites, we're going to look at this, is there's no clear call to action on your calls to action. So that's really it's a design issue, it's a layout issue, but your calls to action should be very clear. This is something to click on, and you can use design to make the calls to action that you want people to use more prominent. Okay, but if there's no clear call to action, that's a big deal. This is more of a programmer comment, but a lot of conversations I have with my clients are adding an extra scroll bar where it's not needed. So having a browser and then another sort of little scroll area in the middle of the browser with an internal scroll bar.
Like a drop-down menu?
Well, we'll look at a sample, but that's deviating from the familiar browser interface. So anytime they're scrolling on a page, what I like to educate my clients is there's already a scroll bar built into the browser. So let the people use their familiar scroll bar. There's already a back button built into the browser. Okay, let them use that. Those things people are already familiar with. Don't fight with those things. So one of the best things you can do is don't deviate from the common browser interface.
Quick question. Is it better to go to like a drop-down menu or to have them go to another page to open up? You know what I'm saying?
Those seem like two different things to me.
Yeah, like let's say if it's a retail account, if they're buying something and they click on.
Do you have a site example that we can look at?
Amazon.com.
I used to.
Look, we're going to get to samples in a minute, so let's see if we can actually look at a sample and discuss it. Was there? Okay. If your site is riddled with 404 errors or any kind of error, this should be obvious, but I do have to remind my clients a lot of this. That's bad user experience. So you should constantly monitor your site for error types of pages. Those are bad. Okay, so I have some site samples, but is there anybody that wants to be a guinea pig and we can review some sites? Yeah.
My own.
Great.
Fishbookspro.com.
So this is really sort of the meat of this presentation. This is what I like to do in, and I've done this at WordCamps, is if you don't mind, I'm going to put up the site and we're going to talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to talk frankly about,
Don't care.
Great. What is it again?
Black eye. Fishbookspro.com.
Here's another super quick question. Which is the
Yeah.
best browser for Macintosh? Do you think Safari or Firefox?
I'm going to ask the. I'm going to pull the group. What's the best browser for Macintosh?
Chrome.
Firefox.
Yeah. Huh. Really?
There is a reason. There's a specific reason I'm still in Firefox.
Because that's what I've been using, yeah.
Yep. I'm on Firefox because I'm a developer, so the developer tools are a little bit more mature on Firefox, but I do like Chrome.
Just for basic things, or what if you're developing your website and you're using WordPress?
Well, I test on both, but because of Firebug alone, that's why I'm still on Firefox. Firebug's a developer tool. I don't want to get too far off.
Okay, I understand.
Where's the opera button?
What's that?
Opera.
Opera? I've never heard of it.
I actually started. I just started using it for my Power PC for my kids.
Okay. I'm not seeing a lot wrong with this as a homepage. The only thing I'd say is like buttons.
Okay.
But
Changing.
yeah, because they're changing, I think they're intended to be captions and they're intended to go along the slide.
Right.
But because of their layout, they look a little bit like buttons. I don't think that's a huge problem.
It was more for readability. It was
understood.
A good, yeah.
Understood. Because the slide itself is clickable, there's no call to action on the slide, so you might want to put something here that says it leads somewhere. Otherwise, I'm never going to know to click on it.
Right.
Other than that, I think it's a pretty clean layout, a good use of white space. I'm not seeing a lot else wrong with it. Can we go to an insight page?
Yeah, go to a blog page or a product page, whatever.
Aren't they based in Utah?
Products.
Aren't they Utah-based company?
Fishbowl?
Well, I'm just looking
yeah,
at some. I'm
this
looking
is my
at some of the
company.
drop downs do.
Oh, with Fishbowl.
Yeah, with FishBooks Pro. Excuse me? What was the question? Products.
Is there, and this is an open conversation, so if there's any other comments about this before I move on, yeah?
I think the icons next to client login on the nav bar,
Here?
Yeah.
maybe it's easier to tell when you're on, when it's close up, but I can't really tell what they represent. So.
Yeah. This
Well,
one, there's a Rolodex,
Hover.
a phone, and an email, and there was a rollover state in there that showed what they do. But you're right; these might be better off. Up here outside the nav because they are so important.
Yeah, they are.
These are there's a lot of nav items and then these items, so these might work better in this space up here.
Yeah.
Or even
That's-
think of just putting the information, if there's a phone number and I want to call someone, I
That's-
don't want to go through icons to search for the number, just put what the phone number is.
Do you mind seeing that?
Oh, no, that's
Thank you
fine.
so much.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know,
That's
so just put the phone number and the address. Because if I wind up on this site and I want to know where they are, time zone, so I know if I'm going to get a person, it'd just be nice to have Main Street, Oregon, and a
Absolutely.
phone number.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
One other thing, I might put the contact us. Usually you see that as typically the last thing on your menu
This?
bar.
Mhm.
Contact, yeah.
Contact us.
I would put that at the right.
Gotcha.
And if you also move those up, it gives you some more space on your bar because
Yep.
your client login has a drop down.
Yep. I'd actually, if it were me, I agree with everything you said. I put the phone number I just list the phone number out. Google's going to pick it up better as well, so put it in text up here. Move these out, and I would actually put client login outside the nav bar as well because it is, it's its own separate action item, and it's meant for your existing audience,
Right.
where these are more marketing
Yeah.
items. Again, these are nitpicky. I don't think these are bad.
The tagline under FishBooks Pro, integrating QuickBooks, I've never heard of FishBooks.
Okay.
So I think if you're Amazon, you don't really need to have a prominent tagline, but if people are gonna come to the site and they're wondering, was it fish talk, fish doc, what was it? I think integrating QuickBooks accounting, the description should be a little larger, so
Okay.
that people know when they've gotten there that they're in
They
the
got
right
the right
place.
Sure.
place. Yeah. Actually, brand confusion is actually a bit of a problem because the larger package is Fishbowl inventory, and we do work with them, and they always confuse us. Hey, I'm just Jeff. Can I speak with Jeff? Like, no, this is not the Utah office. This is not them.
Okay, so let's talk about this page.
Yeah. There we go.
So you can't see it. There actually is some design in here. There's some background elements that are in these areas. But to me, and again, this is purely a design comment.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think these look like mistakes.
Okay.
And again, most of it has to do with alignment. This text is out of alignment with this.
Okay.
You got this big gap between the headline and the description, and then all of this awkward white space going on. on this page. Now, it gets a little bit different when I go into a product itself, but this page to me feels like it might have been an afterthought because you were adding some products later. I'd work on this page a little bit. Again, a lot of alignment is broken. There's no alignment. There's no alignment with this headline and this text, and then this box and this text, and then they're not aligned within. So it's that throws the eye off a little bit, and it makes it feel a little bit pedestrian.
Is it images big now too?
What's that?
No images. Product.
No images. I don't know if he has images that are.
It's abstract software. It's kind of hard. We'd show an image, but it wouldn't express much.
Sure.
You can't see it there, but I can see it. If you scroll down, the logos on the bottom, maybe you do those in color.
These?
LinkedIn, Twitter, and the YouTube. A lot more noticeable, I think.
Sure.
Okay.
Steve?
Yeah.
You go first.
Yeah.
But just one thought looking at that is, I use tables a lot in just basic documents where I may add and split the cells so they've got more than one column, put a color fill in part of the cell where you could use a lot of that white space with something much more visual and could make the fonts a lot bigger with it. Make it a reverse font or something in your description or the name, one or the other, whichever makes it more readable.
Sure.
I would also put a call to action. I mean, sometimes people, someone said go buy it, and they're like, I need to buy fish snap. Okay, I'm ready, and then maybe let them go ahead and buy it versus.
Well, what you're saying, and I don't know how your product works. We haven't really seen any way to buy yet, right? But if learn more then led to a page that had a buy on it, now we're 3 clicks away from a purchase. Right. So you are sort of getting in the way of that person who might just be an impulse buyer. I don't know if you have an impulse
that
type of product.
These are not impulse kind of things.
What about pricing tag? Because usually I want to find, if it's software, the first thing I want to find out is price, how much does it cost?
You know, that was a huge discussion in our office, and we typically don't try to design by committee. That's what I hate most. But that was a huge discussion, and it was expected of us, well, my business partner, they liked the idea of pricing, but we didn't like the idea of being compared with other companies, so we tried to get the pricing off of it. So it's hit or miss. It's definitely taste.
Sure.
We got to match our market.
The calls to action are consistent. Once I got to this page, there's still the green button. They both say learn more. Whether this said something different, it's still the green. But it's the green button is recognizable. I know that that's going to lead me somewhere. Yes.
Which is reused.
Understood.
On this page, from a marketing point of view, this is only designed to help you make money.
We like that.
The content, you should not ask a question, do you know what your inventory was yesterday? That is not that does not convert well. The main mistake that I see in a lot of advertising and marketing, in all forms of media, not just the internet, is you ask a question. You never want to ask a question you don't want people to think. They're going to go, I don't know, what was my inventory yesterday? You want to tell them, you want to change that into a statement, and then convert that, make a statement, state the feature, and then have a unique selling point that converts into a benefit. You want to tell them exactly what it is. Don't ask them, it's like, do you want to lose 10 pounds? Well, I don't know. No, you're saying
absolutely.
You know what you were doing. All of those where they start with a question, those need to be converted to a statement. Don't ask a question. Don't make them think. You want to tell them exactly what you want them to do. Also, the word learn more. The latest statistics out show that, I hate this, but click here has a higher conversion rate than learn more.
Okay.
You will actually get a higher conversion rate. Also, if you go down to the footer.
I agree.
So what we're talking about, actually, it's a great comment. I didn't say this in my slides earlier, but what we're talking about is content, right? You can build all this great design. You can build all this great design. You can build all this great technology, but if you don't have the right content, if you're not a copywriter, right? You lose.
Content is key because that's what's going to increase your conversion ratio. Also, in the footer, I would suggest that you have a privacy policy and a sitemap, because Google loves those, and they'll automatically rank you.
We actually, we publish our sitemap XML directly to Google.
I was going to say.
Well, you should have it on your website
Can you
there.
actually buy anything?
I think we're talking about two different kinds of sitemaps. We're talking about a sitemap that's sort of human readable. And
There's human readable and an XML.
Right. Yeah. They've done the XML version. They haven't exposed it.
Okay, it needs to, okay.
Yep.
But at least put a privacy policy on there. Google loves privacy policies.
Really? So, this falls apart a little bit for me. Okay.
This is fine.
Wait, how did you get here? Was that at
I
the
clicked
second
learn
learn more?
I clicked the first learn more.
On the first page?
Yes, on the second page.
On the second page, on
Yes,
the product page?
I clicked here.
Okay.
I clicked learn more. Now we're at the product page. So remember, I've talked a lot about alignment. I'm not going to get into vertical alignment. This has a lot of just vertical alignment problems where if I'm reading this, I'm going to instantly get lost. Okay. Just because there's you know, centered text or centered text here or some sort of bullet list, and then you know, text here that's, I can't tell if that's aligned or not. Either way, it's, you know, this page is just sort of it's a mess. And your price is, I've missed it on the first go around. You know, your price should be, you know, just at least readable. Right. Talked about inconsistent fonts. This doesn't have inconsistent fonts, but it has inconsistent sizing. Yeah. So we've got, actually this font looks a little bit different, but we've got a weird size going on here, and then it's carried through here. So there's just sort of inconsistent sizing issues on this page. Where,
I want a breadcrumb for a change.
what's that?
Breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs up here?
Yeah, the other pages didn't have them.
Oh, there was no breadcrumb on the other page?
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
tiny.
But they're not clickable. So the breadcrumbs should be clickable to get back to.
if you mouse over home, it should be.
Can you go back? Yeah.
Oh, it
You
is.
Go back
Right.
one.
But aren't I in products now?
See,
it's
that's what
missing
that's what happened. This was probably set up as a separate page, not as a sub-page.
Got it.
Products.
Yeah, and that's probably a simple fix. Yep.
Once again, from a content point of view, I only want you to make money.
I know, this
There's
was,
no
again,
compel-
designed by committee.
There's no compelling reason for me to give him $395 because I still don't understand what this does or what's in it for me. There's no benefit. What is this going to do for me? Is it going to save me time? Is it going to save me money? Is it going to, you know, I see the word easy, which is good. That's a sell word, but there's no benefit to me to do anything. There needs to be some type, whenever you state a feature, there needs to be benefit attached to it. Tell me what you're going to do for me, and then I'll give you my money.
And if you're marketing effectively, this is probably a landing page.
Oh, it is, yeah.
So this is probably going to be a lot of people's first impression of your website. Is this page? So I would put a lot of effort here. I think everything you're saying is valid. Any other comments on this before we go on? Yeah.
You can use most of the big sites have everything on one page. They'll have like maybe a details button, they'll jump you down to the bottom of the same page. But they don't have you go to another page and then hope you come back. I think it might be more effective than instead of having a separate FAQ, have it maybe in the bottom of this page, you scroll down to see it.
See, this is where it ended up being a little different because this ends up being part of our product documentation.
Right.
Which you could say copy it to this page, but we weren't sure what to do, so we ended up doing this.
Remember I talked about that jarring experience?
Yeah.
So we're now going from this design, and even though this is similar,
right,
the layout has changed. Something's different. And if I wasn't paying attention, it's going to feel like a mistake to the end user. That's that jarring experience I was talking about. I understand everything you're saying. I run into that stuff all the time, right? You don't want to necessarily have to repurpose this somewhere else and in a different site. I get it. But there's good reason to do it.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm going to talk about one that I love talking about in these talks, and that's anybody a Toastmaster here? Okay. Toastmasters. So this is a worldwide organization. This is a large international organization. Okay. Let's see if we can point out some of the flaws on their website. Right?
That's funny.
Yeah, we could spend a whole hour on this. But
See a lot of text.
When you said you loved it and you put this up, I thought.
No, I didn't say I loved it.
Oh, I thought you said one that I love.
I love talking about it.
I was like, oh,
No, I love talking about the
This is the
Toastmasters.
irony.
Okay, yes. Okay, so somebody said it's text heavy. Absolutely. This is very text heavy. Where does our eye go on this site?
The YouTube video.
To the YouTube video. I think that's the first
I
place
want to
I
click the globe.
The globe from the
Maybe the globe, yeah. Possibly this guy. There used to be a picture of a different guy that was it was much swirlier that my eye used to go to. They changed it out. But that's kind of where my eye goes. But because it's so text heavy and these things are competing, my eye really doesn't have a place to land. And that's why I ask that question all the time is I get to the site and I'm actually confused. I'm mentally sort of confused because I really have no place to focus. And a lot of this they can fix with some design hierarchy. Again, I don't claim to be a designer, but they've got 3 columns going on here, but these 2 columns are equal weight, they're equal size. The headlines are sort of equal size, the font is small but equal size, and there's really nothing that's distinguishing anything in any of these columns that shows any importance. So my eye is really lost on this page. Okay? What else can we pick out about Toastmasters?
They're on a typographic grid.
What's that?
They're on a typographic grid. The lines all, at least they line up.
Well, they kind of do. They've got, if you create a line here, they really don't. I'm cutting right through the navigation, and then I know
The navigation
this
is way too small.
So one of the tools that I use pretty frequently in my development is, it's called Xscope on the Mac. I don't know a similar product on the PC, but Xscope actually gives me a little ruler or a little line on the I'm using my Mac program called Xscope. So if I look, I can actually see I'm right at the corner of members, which does line up with the box, it does line up with the text, and I'm cutting right through home in the nav there. So they do have a little alignment problem throughout the site. Okay.
Don't you think a bigger problem is the what about the navigation where it says home, how do I join? I mean, I can read that with my glasses on and in the front row.
Yeah, you're right, and I am having a hard time seeing it on my computer as well, but you're right, home, that's hard to read, but there's a bigger navigation problem here.
Is that a drop-down menu?
Well, no. What's the primary navigation? We've got navigation here. Okay, 6 items here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items here in what could be a secondary nav, but actually, how do I join? Which is probably one of the places they want people to look first is buried there as their second item in the in this sort of secondary navigation. Okay, and in addition to that, I've got all this navigation down the side. So there's 3 nav bars that I've got to find my way through to navigate this website. Okay, so they've definitely got a navigation problem, an inconsistency problem, and one of the things I didn't mention in my slides, but this is a candidate for this is too much navigation. That always leads to bad UX, too much navigation. So as much as you can when you're developing your site, combine your navigation items into digestible chunks. 5, 6, maybe 7 items. That's about what people can digest. 5 is actually the magic number when it comes to navigation items. This is, what did we count? What was my last count? 13, just in between the 2 navs, and then all this stuff down the side. Okay. The other problems I have here is there's no consistent calls to action. Okay. So I've got these red buttons, find. I've got find as a button, and then continuing the sentence off of find, a location near you. So find is actually separated out. It doesn't read as a sentence anymore because of the way to design that call to action. Okay? Can't find it? Well, I can't find anything to start, but start a club. Okay? The copy doesn't even make sense. Alright? I've got blue text links here in the nav. I've got white navigation here and here. I've got these red buttons, find, login, and find a club near you. So if I was looking at calls to action, that's probably the most prominent and important call to action on the page. It's probably the one thing they did right on this page. Okay?
And also, I mean.
And then, I'm sorry, really quick. In addition, they've got blue text links here. They've got blue hyperlinks here, and red underlined hyperlinks here throughout. So the underlining isn't even consistent amongst their hyperlinks. So this is an example of a mess.
Yeah.
It seems that you already say Toastmasters International on the logo. If you make it bigger, you wouldn't even need it as a charter.
I'm so glad you pointed that out.
And then you don't need welcome to Toastmasters. You say
How
welcome
many times is Toastmasters said on this page?
Too much.
Toastmasters?
2, 3. Toastmasters International is at 3. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that was going to be my last comment. So we got Toastmasters here, 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 here.
Right
Do you
there.
think it's Toastmasters?
They're selling toasters.
Steve,
Yeah.
another major problem with that is under the new Google Penguin guidelines is that this site will get marked down for being over-optimized because they're using their keyword Toastmasters
Got it.
too many times. They're going to get hammered. Also, they've done the same thing, looking to develop speaking and leadership skills. I mean,
Question mark.
my gosh. I'm sorry, I get really upset when I see things.
So we talk a lot about inconsistencies on this
Oh my
page.
God.
One of the other things that I mentioned in my slides is way inconsistent fonts. So they've got a red header here that's a different size from this bold header here, and then the small text, and then a blue header here that's a different size than
Do you
this,
think it's better to have different colors?
and an italic. Yeah, and they've got too many colors going on.
But just because, I mean, if you're, let's say instead of, let's say if you're doing a retail and you're selling clothing, I mean, you want to separate like, you know, this clothing from this clothing and giving it different.
Depends on your audience.
Right.
Oh, my
You want to talk about Mike a little bit? Let's talk about Mike. Are we done with Toastmasters?
Yeah.
I
By the
am.
way, they're not telling me what they want me to do. What do they want me to
And
do?
they're not saying they're a speaking organization.
Yeah.
I would
What do they want me to do?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
crowd.
color contrast wise on Toastmasters.
Yeah.
That orange looks a little, Earl Scheib,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a little too circa 1973.
Sure.
Yeah,
All right.
they should say more abruptly like what they actually do, because you really have to search.
All right. Anyone familiar with Mike Ferry? Anybody a student of Mike Ferry here?
Mike is a friend of mine.
Okay, then I won't do this one.
No, it's okay.
I've actually analyzed his site before in talks, so.
I've sent him an email.
You have? What did you say to him?
Oh, well, there were several things. Well, on the positive note, he's got a special report read now, so he's got something that they can download, so he does have a little call to action.
Mike is a very successful real estate
Oh,
coach.
he's
Is that
incredible.
an accurate statement?
Oh, yeah.
An extremely successul man, right, with a very successful business,
Really?
with a very bad website.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, Mike is he's probably one of the best real estate coaches in the business. We've seen him and Daniel Kennedy.
Is he a
And
coach or you just?
I would agree with that statement, but let's talk about his site for a moment, okay?
can you do that in Flash or jQuery?
This is jQuery.
Okay, so that's,
Okay.
okay.
So this will play on an iPad, okay? But we'll talk about this in a second. Okay, where does my eye go?
To me, that goes to the bottom. I see how savvy he is about self
Read now.
This stuff down
Yeah.
here? Because it's got some color to it, sure.
The animation.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
animation
Moving.
is catching your eye because it's in motion, that's true. Clearance sale,
Blink tag.
because it's blinking. Right?
I didn't even notice that there's so much
It's,
going on.
yeah, there's a lot going on this page, okay? So let's start at the top, okay? The Mike Ferry organization with his tagline and navigation. There's nothing separating this stuff out from each other. It's just black text. So the navigation actually competes with the tagline and the headline. So I really don't even know that's navigation. It's just gone. It's lost. So I would have put this in some sort of other color or tabs or in its own little bar, or maybe even in the red bar or below the red bar, just so that it stands out as navigation. Navigation's just gone. I didn't even see it there. I can't remember. There's pull down menus as well. So there's a lot of navigation.
Can I ask you, do you think it would be better instead of having a pull down menu that if they clicked on it, it would send them to another page where they could Like,
It's
what about
it's
going to other
debatable.
pages?
It's
Is that way it's a
debatable.
bit clearer?
It's debatable. There's a reason for doing navigation this way, so at least, I mean, it's hidden away, it's not overwhelming, and I can get to every part of the site very quickly. If you do it your way, you're adding another page view in between.
And then you have to go back.
Right. So I don't mind that as much.
Okay.
But now that we've talked about the header, what's the matter here?
What's clickable there?
Right. What's clickable? There's no call to. There's not a lot of call to action or consistent call to action in the slides.
There's almost no content.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
It reminds me that
Labels.
would his presentation be like this?
There's 8 slides in this slideshow.
Now, what happens if you want to
Okay.
get back to the third one?
Well, that's a problem as well. There's no way to navigate the slides,
Right.
but there's 8 slides in the slideshow.
That's
And
great.
look at how slow they're going. Do you
can't
think anybody's
fast
going to see slide number 8?
Right.
No.
No way. I promise you nobody's seeing or clicking on slide number 8. Maybe slide number 2.
Right.
But because it's so slow, and let's wait, what is it, about 5, 8
But if
seconds
there's
maybe?
like a next or
1,
next.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's about 7 or 8 seconds between slides. I might not even know it's a slideshow. I may have already moved on to something else. Okay, that's a long time.
So what do you suggest? You put like a next or
Either navigation or the little icons underneath, or something to indicate that there's slideshow,
You have
and
an
cut out
option.
some of these slides. Cut them out and just make them. A lot of what they've done here is they try to fit every piece of content above the fold. That's probably the exact conversation they had in the meeting. I'll get there. Give me
I
one
just
second.
noticed if you move your mouse to the bottom left corner of that slideshow, bottom left.
I don't know.
The other one.
Oh,
Wow.
Look at
Already
that.
a lot.
I accidentally put my
Doesn't
mouse
even
there. That's how I
say
found it.
Yeah, you got it
That's
all over.
amazing.
yeah.
Huh.
10. I never would have seen that. I've showed this 4 times and I've never even seen it. So, something to indicate this is a slideshow, and I would never have 8 slides in a slideshow. 4, maybe 5. 3 is about the optimal number for a slideshow like this, because people they just aren't going to wait around for those slides. Get your 3 most important slides up there. Put the rest of the content below the fold. People will scroll if they want more. You just have to encourage them to go do that. So part of the problem here is I guarantee, I wasn't the designer on this site, but I guarantee in this design meeting, somebody at the higher up said, I want everything above the fold. Don't be scared of the fold.
What's the fold again?
The fold is here. So
So they don't have to scroll.
that's probably exactly how the comment was said. I don't want anybody scrolling. That's wrong. I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to that. No. People will scroll if they're interested. If they're interested, they will scroll. Give them a reason.
Right.
Okay? If you try to shove everything above the fold, you're gonna lose. It becomes too part of the problem with this site is just clutter. It's just clutter. It's everything's shoved in there. There's so much coming at you that it's just noise. It becomes noise.
What's an example of a site that has it right?
Basecamp.
Every one of my sites.
See one of your sides.
I'm sorry. We'll get there. Basecamp is a good one. Was there another comment back here? Okay. Yes.
You know what's amazing about this? I've known Mike for a long time, and he's broken all of his rules that he teaches. He does. He teaches. These are 2 big principles he teaches. Number 1 is there's only 3 reasons why people buy anything. They need it, they want it, they like it. If they don't like you, they won't buy it, even if they need it or want it. The other is there's only 3 steps to the sale: prospect, present, and close. Most people think that prospecting is the most important or close is the most important, and they're wrong. Presentation is the most important because that's where you get them to like you. His site makes such a bad presentation, they don't like it. He's broken his own rules.
Absolutely.
I've suggested that he get rid of that stupid slideshow altogether because it does not convert well. And the new Google statistics show that if you've got a slideshow on there, it draws the eye's attention away from the content, which is what's going to actually convert someone to do something.
Great.
But he's not listening.
Well, most likely it probably wasn't his fault.
But when you do a search, don't you need a lot of words to have Google find you?
You do, but a lot of these decisions may be made by a tech person.
I'm sure that they were.
And here's how I know. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
here's how I know. Okay, that these decisions were made by a tech person. Look at these buttons here. You can't really see it. You can't see the gray that's on my screen.
Yeah.
These are actually sort of gray, very gray, old school software style Windows buttons. If you go to their site, that's what they look like, with a chiseled type in there, sort of an embossed type, and a blinking clearance sale tag to draw your eye in case you missed it. This is just amateur. I mean, that's what this is, amateur hour. Is what this is. Exactly, it's very GeoCities.
And he has so much money, and he has 2 sons who are.
I know his son.
If this was a starter site.
I know Tom.
Oh, you know Tom. Tom's
Yeah.
here. If this was a starter site, it's like dudes don't have any money.
This makes him look like a small organization.
It does. Right. Destroys his presentation, which is what he preaches.
This destroyed his brand. Anyway, I'm not ragging on Mike.
We love him.
He's a nice man.
We do love Mike. So.
What's with the deal with Mike? Why is everyone such a big fan of Mike? Who's Mike?
He's an awesome marketer.
If you're in real estate, he's the real
Absolutely. Any other comments on this before I move on? Yeah.
I have a site that's very basic. It has the logo, login, 5 nav buttons, a feature event, and then all my other events. Like if I have 20 upcoming events, don't go there. It's not working.
Okay.
But it slides to every event like 2 seconds. But that's really the only thing to do is for my events. Is it still 3 slideable on that, you think? It's all about events. I want them to go to the events. So I want them to see a ton of events and then go to those event pages.
If it's more of a destination page, then I think you can break the rule for that because you've gotten people there to look for something specific. I think they're going to spend more time. I think the rule really applies on a home page.
Okay.
That, again, without knowing too much about your site,
that is my homepage.
It is your homepage. In that case, I would just solicit some feedback from people that don't know. You know, have some people look at it.
Okay.
See what they think. Yeah.
What are your opinions on search?
Search?
Yeah.
Most searches don't work.
Yeah.
So
if it doesn't work, just don't even have it.
If your search doesn't work and it's not as good as what you can get on Google, ditch it. Get rid of it.
Try it.
Search. I don't know what search
Event.
Events.
Social media site shoes.
No, it isn't. It's not.
Yeah, these are his.
Okay, so it works. It's functional.
Yeah.
It's okay. But you should be very critical of your search.
Right.
Because if it's there, people are going to use it. And if they have a bad experience with it, they're going to move on to the next website.
Do you want your search to only include your items on your site or outside stuff? Because if they see outside stuff, they may not come back, right?
That's true. I mean, search should be, to me, it's intended for your site itself. It's intended for the site you're on. I mean, the way I search, I don't use people's internal search. I just go to Google. Even if it's something I'm looking for on them, I still go back to Google. Because maybe it's going to teach me something else that I don't know about what I'm looking for. And that's how most people search. When I search, I go up there in the browser bar.
Right.
All right. Anybody else want to volunteer a site? How are we doing time?
I think we're probably about good to break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go over one. Let me just wrap up. Did this stuff help?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There's one more site I want to show. You know, we think at OC WordCamp or OC WordPress, we think this guy is the bomb. You talk about good sites. We think this. Yes. Oh my God. We do love the webcam. All right.
You take them to the.
Who mentioned GeoCities? You mentioned GeoCities. Yeah. So
I still come across sites like this sometimes.
WebKing's in Vegas. Yeah. We've contacted the WebKing for projects in the past. WebKing is the ultimate in what not to do. You know, I laugh and we joke and you know, this is kind of funny, but I run across clients that have these kinds of things still to this day on their website, and they're proud of them. And it's sometimes hard to talk them off of what they're used to. These things still exist. there's a if you do a search for you mentioned there's a program called the GeoCitizer. So you can take any, and this is just sort of the side note. You can take any website and turn it into the Web King by running it through GeoCitizer.
Actually, it makes the site look better if I remember.
Better than the Web King? Yeah. Couple of books I mentioned. I want to finish off on this. So I'm just going to take 2 more minutes. Definitely get Don't Make Me Think. Here's the second book, Rocket Surgery Made Easy. So that's more about sort of the testing side of things, but it's still about web usability. So the last step that we didn't really touch on much is once you're done designing, developing, asking all these questions, going through this process that we just went through, ask the questions again. Testing is a good way to increase your usability. We have people in our company that are just dedicated to testing. That's all they do. So before our client even sees the product, they go through full rounds of QA. I mentioned useit.com. The guy who maintains that site, Jacob Nielsen, this is an older book. You can still find copies of this. This is a good read as well, Designing Web Usability. So that's a good one to have in your library. And then for you non-designers out there, here's how I learned actually back in the day a lot of my design skills. Things like vertical alignment and visible lines and things like that. The non-designer's design book is really good to have if you're not a classically trained graphic designer. It'll teach you a lot of those things. And for typography, the other one to get is Stop Stealing Sheep. Yes?
I just wanted your opinion on something, because so many successful sites have seemingly unappealing interfaces. And I just wanted your thoughts on the Drudge Report site, because it's one of the more simplistic, I guess, sites, but they're just so busy. I just wanted
Drudge Report is an anomaly. So for those of you who don't know, I actually do a lot of work in the political space. The sites I mentioned earlier that get large amounts of traffic, actually it all comes from Drudge. So Drudge is an anomaly. You're not going to find many Drudges out there. So Drudge, they've kept the design the way it was since they invented it in the late 90s. Late 90s. Web King. I love the Web King. I like the crown. So you're not going to find many successful sites that are designed like this. This is intentionally designed poorly because they've kept that sort of raw feel. I actually know how they maintain the Drudge Report. There's no content management system behind this. They maintain this in Dreamweaver. They literally manually go in every day and make HTML, a static HTML pages. There is no PHP database behind this.
Really?
Absolutely. So they've purposely kept it the way it was since they originally invented the Drudge Report. So again, you're not going to find this. This breaks every rule I just talked about, and it is an anomaly. You're not going to find much of it.
But it's like a cult now, it's like...
Yeah.
He has literally branded that style. You go there and you don't even have to see Drudge Report. You know what it is if you've ever been there once or twice.
Yeah. A good friend of mine that actually helped invent the Drudge Report passed away last year, Andrew Breitbart. So Andrew Breitbart and Matt Drudge invented this. They created this. He passed away at a pretty young age. But he was the guy that he really invented web traffic. He knew how to move eyeballs around. So as bad as it's designed, it's actually designed to make your eye go to certain places. So while it looks poorly designed, there's some intentional tricks in here to make you click on certain things. I don't know what those are. I don't know the format.
They get it through their own RSS feed and then just provide the link to another
they
story.
actually go and pick these stories manually all day long. This is
So they're
all
surfing other sites,
they're
finding
surfing,
something interesting.
Exactly.
Curated.
Like a tweet.
Manual curation is what it is. Actually, yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. Unless there's anything else, I think we're good. All right.
Yeah, thank you. I thought we would take a break for 10 minutes and you guys can talk for a little bit while we get set up for the next presentation.
That's good.
Steve, what was that last book? Sheep?
Stop Stealing Sheep.
Stop Stealing Sheep.
Did anyone have some announcements that they wanted to make?
Sure. My name is Michael, and I own a company called One-to-One Network Advertising and Marketing. And one of the reasons I'm here tonight is I'm looking for experienced WordPress designers and developers. I have a lot of projects coming up. My existing team is getting overloaded, and I'm looking to add some freelance designers to our team. So if you're interested, if you're a freelance experienced WordPress designer, please talk to me afterwards. I have projects waiting to be completed. I only ask that you do a professional job and that you return my phone calls. Very simple. If you don't, you'll get an email from me saying we're done. Thank you.
Yes, you have an announcement?
Yes. Part of the reason I'm here tonight, a couple of announcements. One, for a fellow designer, she needs someone, freelancer, to complete a website, must know, familiar with Drupal, HTML, CSS, some jQuery, that type of thing, so let me know after. And also, I'm a project manager for web design. I do freelance, so anyone who hates dealing with clients, doesn't want to schedule meetings, doesn't want to nag people, that's what I do for a living, so just let me know.
And my name's Carmen. And she does all the hard work, all the stuff nobody wants to do.
Yes, you want to comment?
Yeah, cool. I have a little announcement. I was the website that got ripped apart.
Thank you for letting him do that.
That's fine,
awesome.
because I was really worried about the front page, and I realized, oh, there's nothing that bad about it. But we're a company that used to do our own web design, but now we are so busy with clients that we've forgotten to do stuff for the last 6 months, and I actually kind of want to talk to you, so I can get your card later. But we need not only web design help, but we actually need on-staff PHP developers. So if you know anybody, I can give you my card and we can talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, does anyone else have anything they want to talk about? All right, well, thank you for joining us, and I hope you join us next month. We have this on the third Wednesdays of every month. Thank you. Not yet. I have a few weeks to think of one, but it'll be WordPress graphic design related.
And for those of you that consider yourself more programmers than graphic designers, there hopefully soon shall be a OWASP Top 10 presentation. So we'll be talking about the main top 10 vulnerabilities in relation to websites and web applications. So we're talking SQL injections, cross-site scripting, all that fun stuff.